All right, well, welcome everyone to Willis Wit and Wisdom. We'll let you figure out which one is which here in just a minute. But I'm Eric Willis, and this is Bob Willis on the other end.
Hello.
There he is. And just for a disclaimer, Willis Wit and Wisdom, I want to clarify that all wisdom is from God, and we're not claiming to have all wisdom, but we do claim to know the one who does.
Right.
And so we will rely and trust his guidance as our hope and desire is to come alongside to answer some questions, and specifically related to life and loss and living well and what that looks like on a moment-to-moment basis. But I'm, like I said, Eric Willis, Bob Willis. We've known each other, I guess, just over 50 years.
Just over 50, right.
Yeah. So as father and son, we've been in ministry, pastoral ministry, for several years. And so tell us a little bit about you, Dad, and
Okay, I'm trying to figure if I'm the wit or the wisdom. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
I've been referred to as a half-wit occasionally, so that might work. But I am Bob Willis. I am a recovering Baptist preacher. Spent about 18 years as a Baptist minister in Kentucky, Tennessee, and Oklahoma. Then something happened to me. I fell in love with grievers. I started focusing on grief, even as a pastor, started focusing on grief, and something called the Oklahoma City bombing happened, and I happened to live in that area. So God used that event to usher me into working with grievers full time, and worked alongside a hospice, Integris Hospice in Oklahoma County, for 16 years as a bereavement coordinator. But that also gave me the opportunity to reach into the community and help people in the community, not just hospice families. So that's where I found the grief to be very fulfilling, and I've learned a lot about grief, but I have so much more to learn, and that's what I try to do, is learn from grievers, let them teach me, to walk alongside them, because they're in places I've never been. So they may see me as a guide, but actually I'm just walking alongside them and listening to them and letting them teach me about their grief journey. And that's what I do. I love to do it. I retired from being on someone's payroll about 12 years ago, and so I'm free now to do grief conferences and workshops and programs in the country. And one of the avenues I have is sculpting, to give myself the balance from the emotional balance. And so I've been a sculptor for about 25 years. For the last 3 years, a sculptor at the Passion Play in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. We're a little late starting this season because of the virus, but we have hopes and prayers that we'll start in a couple of months and get on with that ministry.
Very good.
I'm proud to be your dad, by the way.
Yeah, I'll claim you too. So thank you. Yeah, and so I'll be the other half wit to your half wit, and I think we have a whole wit. Yeah. So, yeah, and my journey has been one of pastoral ministry. Began in youth ministry in the late '80s. That's the 1980s, and the journey that I went on was one of heartbreak. Conflict seemed to be following me everywhere that I went, and I searched for a common thread, and I seemed to have been that common thread in all the conflict that I was engaged in. And so I went on a little journey of learning and about who I am, how I'm wired, the places that God has prepared me to come alongside individuals who are facing conflict. And so through years and years of pastoral ministry, currently on staff at a church in the Dallas area, working in minister development, preparing ministers to launch out into senior pastor leadership. And so I have the privilege of training them, equipping them, and providing them with some mentoring and coaching along the way to make sure that they're prepared emotionally for what they're going to face. They will face turmoil, they'll face loss and grief, and they'll face conflict along the way. And so I'm a certified Christian conciliator, trained in conflict mediation. I'm also I'm also working on a doctorate in organizational leadership to come alongside churches and mission agencies to help them navigate the changes that are inevitable in organizations and churches. And our churches are both an organization and primarily an organism because of the Holy Spirit's role in the church. The church belongs to Jesus, and so how do we come alongside to help the organization and the organism as Christ does his work in the church? And so my passion is to come alongside people who are in ministry, who are on the verge of throwing in the proverbial towel and saying, if this is ministry, I don't want anything to do with it. And I want to come alongside and encourage, infuse hope, biblical perspective to stay the course of ministry. And so that's my life's work. I have a life mission, and my life mission is to live, to write, to speak for the redemptive moments of others. I get to have a front row seat to God's transformative work in people's lives, and that just does my heart good. And so that's what motivates me and gets me going as well. So Dad, tell us a little bit about how people can reach you and find some of the things that you're into these days.
Right. I discovered actually Facebook last July. So I'm a rookie at Facebook, but that's the best place to find me. It is under Bob Willis. That's Bob with one O, Willis. And what you'll see is my photo of my face and a little sculpture next to me. That would be the Bob you're looking for. And each morning on Facebook, I will put something called Morning Moments, a little blurb about grief and life and how to deal with loss, and just some guidelines just to help people realize what's normal. That's the best way to reach me, is on Facebook, or you can email me. Actually, I do that quite well. rwillis14 at cox.net, rwillis14 at cox.net. That's another way to find me, and I will respond.
That is true. He's good at responding. And you can find me at reclaimleadership.org, and I have a blog there called Reclaimed. The purpose of the blog is to infuse hope and biblical perspective, and so you could sign up for the RSS feed there, and also an opportunity to pray for ministry leaders as they engage the ministry that I provide for them. But reclaimleadership.org is how you can find me. You can email me through that website as well. And so the reason that Dad and I are giving you our contact information is because Willis Wit and Wisdom depends upon you and your participation. You want to tell them how they can participate?
If you would like to submit some areas of question or concern, it isn't necessary that we have all the answers, but we may be able to find some options to consider and see where those options might lead. But we welcome that. From input, we will have some ideas on where we're going to go with this. And I love to talk about grief and loss and normalize some feelings and give some guidance on things that will help to soften the pain and kind of dispel some myths about grief. We can do that too along the way, but we open it up to questions to come our way.
And those questions, in addition to the loss, and not just loss through death, although that is an incredible loss, but loss of what we've all experienced these past several weeks, a loss of normalcy, a loss of routine, all that has affected us.
Yep.
And something I'm looking forward to sharing and receiving questions about is your well-being. You know, where's hope? Where's faith fit into this? How do I put one foot in front of the other? What do I do with depression? What do I do with these? How do I process these feelings that are associated with where I'm at in life? And so the purpose of our time is to answer questions that you have about life, loss, and well-being. That's hopefully the wisdom we'll be sharing based on our own journeys and also our experience in coming alongside and ministering to people for several years. There's also a resource. Each of us have resources available. And so, Dad, I'd like to ask you about your book or books. What resources might you have available for folks?
Right. Well, I led grief support groups since 1995. And then when I retired, I did not just want to drop that, so I put it in book form. A Guide for Grievers is something that's on Amazon, or I have those also. But it's a way to kind of guide a person to normalize their feelings or give them some tools to soften the pain of their loss. And so A Guide for Grievers is something I find to be very valuable. We have hospitals that are giving it to families after a death, have funeral homes that are giving it to families that they work with. And so it's being distributed as a tool to help people identify what they're feeling, but it gives them something to do with it. And then a book that will probably be out in the next 2 weeks is one, actually it's for caregivers, but it's based upon the 7 sayings of Christ on the cross. It's Jesus, the crucified caregiver. He was absolutely a caregiver from the cross. Yeah. He took care of his mom. He took care of the thief next to him. He even took care of the people who were crucifying him. So that's the element of that book. This will be coming out probably the next couple of weeks into Amazon also. Those are my resources, son.
All right. Well, that's great. That's great. And those resources are available on Amazon and will be soon. I'm excited for that new book coming out. I have a resource that's called Sacred Conflict. And Sacred Conflict is a book I wrote to help Christians understand more clearly how to resolve conflict in relationships, relational conflict. So you can find that on Amazon as well. And I wrote a book called Breathing Space, a respite for ministry leaders. And so that is more of a workbook type thing for pastors and missionaries and those in Christian leadership to work through to make sure that they're staying on top of their spiritual health as they engage in the trenches of ministry. And that's available on Amazon as well. But we're not here to sell books. We just wanted you to know that there are resources available that we've provided. And you can find more information about that if you want on our websites, emailing us. But we really want you to email us some questions so that we can really get down to the brass tacks of answering some of those questions that you have. So, Dad, what do you have as a way of maybe some wit or wisdom to give some folks today? Just as what's on your heart and your mind this morning?
The foundational part I like to share with people is what you feel on the inside following the loss. Those emotions of emptiness and sadness and even anger, guilt and regret, all that's grief. No one can see it. But when you talk about it and express it, it becomes mourning. So grief's on the inside, mourning is when it's expressed. Jesus did not say, blessed are those who grieve. He did say, blessed are those who mourn, they shall be comforted. So that's the difference between holding it in and letting it out. So what I provide are some tools to help recognize the grief and the emotions, but also a guide to help express it so that it will soften the pain. According to Jesus, that's when you find comfort. I believe that.
Good word. Good word. And one of the things I want to share with folks is as you're facing conflict and crisis in your life, I want you to reframe conflict. I want to challenge you to look at conflict as being amoral. It's neither right nor wrong. And that conflict isn't the events or circumstances around us. It's not what the situation or the words that have been expressed around us are. It's the meaning that we attach to that event or circumstance around us. That's what creates conflict. You see, conflict is an inside out progression, not an outside in aggression. And so how can we deal with conflict as a believer that is different than the way someone who doesn't know Christ deals with conflict? And so I look forward to engaging those types of conversations with you. All right. Well, we have come to the end of the first Willis Wit and Wisdom, episode number 1. How you feeling?
Doing well.
Okay. Then we'll do it again. And but here's the thing. We need you to send us your questions. You can email Dad at
Willis14@cox.net.
And you can email me at Eric, ERIC, at reclaimleadership.org, or you can go to that website, reclaimleadership.org, and engage as well. Hey, since this is a YouTube channel, the best way for you to get future episodes is to go ahead and follow us here. So the YouTube link that you're on, you can support it by liking and engaging us on this channel. So please do so. and we look forward to receiving your questions. Thanks for being with us. God bless you.